Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Learn English Together, the podcast where we help you become fluent step by step. I'm your host, Emma, and joining me today is Jack, my amazing co-host.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be back. And Emma, today's episode is super exciting because we're diving into a topic that's not only fascinating but also incredibly effective. Learning English like a baby.
That's right. Babies are the ultimate language learners. They start with no knowledge at all, and within just a few years, they become fluent in their native language. Imagine if you could apply those same strategies to learning English.
And by the end of this episode, you'll know exactly how to do that. Plus, we'll share some English learning secrets and help you practice understanding common answers so you feel more confident in conversations.
Oh, and here's a little hook to keep you listening. Toward the end, we'll be giving you a special practice challenge that will transform the way you think about learning English. Trust me, you don't want to miss it.
Before we jump in, let's hear from you, our amazing listeners. Have you ever thought about how babies learn language? What do you think makes their way of learning so successful? Share your thoughts with us in the comments or send us a message.
And while you're at it, tell us, what's the most challenging part of learning English for you? Is it speaking, listening, or maybe something else? We'd love to know. All right, let's get into it. Jack, let's start by talking about what it means to learn English like a baby.
Sure. When babies learn a language, they don't start by reading or writing. They don't worry about grammar rules or spelling. Instead, they listen. They absorb the sounds, the patterns, and the rhythm of the language.
Exactly. And then they begin to imitate. They try to copy the sounds they hear. At first, it's just babbling, but over time, they start forming real words and phrases.
And here's the most important part. They're not afraid to make mistakes. Babies get corrected all the time, but they don't stop trying. They learn by doing.
That's such an important lesson for English learners. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Think of yourself as a language baby. Listen, imitate and practice as much as you can. Let's make this more concrete. Imagine this scenario. You're in a cafe and you want to order a coffee. Here's how the conversation might go.
Hi, can I have a cappuccino, please?
Sure. Would you like it hot or iced?
Hot, please.
All right. Anything else?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Great. Your total is $4.50.
Okay, let's break this down. What are the key phrases here?
This is a super useful phrase for ordering anything. You can say, "Can I have a sandwich?" Or, "Can I have a ticket to the concert?"
Then there's, "Would you like?" The barista asked, "Would you like it hot or iced?" This is a polite way to offer choices.
And finally, "Anything else?" That's a common question to ask if someone wants to add more to their order. It's good to know how to respond to it.
Let's turn it over to you, listeners. If you were in this cafe, how would you order your favorite drink? Write your own version of the conversation and share it with us.
And here's a bonus question. What's your go-to phrase when you're not sure how to say something in English? Let us know in the comments. Now, let's talk about some natural expressions you can use in everyday situations. For example, instead of saying, "I don't understand," try, "I didn't catch that." Could you repeat it? Instead of saying, "I want coffee," you could say, "I'd love a coffee, please."
These small changes make your English sound more natural and polite.
That's right. And now let's repeat the cafe conversation, but this time more slowly so you can follow along.
Hi, can I have a cappuccino, please?
Sure. Would you like it hot or iced?
Hot, please.
All right. Anything else?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Great. Your total is $4.50.
So, Emma, let's talk about how adults can adopt these baby-like learning strategies in real life.
Well, the first step is to create a language-rich environment, just like babies have. Listen to English every day. Podcasts, movies, songs. Surround yourself with the sounds of the language.
I totally agree. And don't just listen passively. Try to imitate what you hear. If you're watching a show, Pause and repeat the lines out loud.
Another tip is to focus on high-frequency words and phrases, the kind of language you use every day. For example, greetings, questions, and simple responses.
And don't forget to interact with real people. Babies learn by engaging with others. Find a language partner, join a conversation group, or even practice small talk with strangers.
Yes. And one of my favorite tips is to think of English as a game. Babies learn because they're having fun. So, make your learning enjoyable. Play word games, sing songs, or challenge yourself to learn a new expression every day. You know, Jack, when I was learning Spanish, I used to watch cartoons because the language was simple and repetitive. It really helped me improve my listening skills.
That's a great idea. For me, when I was learning French, I found that talking to native speakers, even if I made a lot of mistakes, was the fastest way to learn.
Listeners, what about you? Have you ever tried any of these methods? What worked best for you?
Here's a fun question for you. If you could learn English from any situation, like a baby learns from their environment, what would it be? Maybe watching movies, listening to songs, or talking to people? Let us know.
And if you've ever had a funny or embarrassing moment while learning English, we'd love to hear about it. Share your story in the comments.
Babies are like little sponges when it comes to learning language, aren't they? They don't stress about grammar rules or getting things perfect. They simply absorb the language through listening, repeating, and engaging. If we could tap into that process as adults, learning English would feel so much more natural.
Exactly. And here's the good news. It's not as difficult as it sounds. In fact, many of the techniques babies use can be adapted to adult learning. So, let's break this down step by step. Jack, what do you think is the first step in learning English like a baby?
I'd say the first step is listening. Lots and lots of listening. Babies listen to their parents, siblings, and the people around them. They don't start speaking immediately, but they're building a foundation by understanding the sounds and rhythms of the language.
That's spot on. For our listeners, think about how much English you're exposing yourself to daily. Are you listening to English podcasts, watching shows in English, or even listening to music with English lyrics? The more you immerse yourself, the faster you'll pick up on patterns and common phrases.
Right. And it's not just about passive listening. Babies listen actively. They focus on sounds, intonation, and even facial expressions to understand meaning. So, when you're watching an English movie, don't just treat it as background noise. Pay attention to how people pronounce words, their emotions, and how sentences are structured.
That's a great point, Jack. Now, let's talk about the next step. Imitation. Babies mimic everything. They repeat sounds, words, and eventually sentences. For English learners, it's all about practicing repetition. Jack, do you remember how we used to mimic actors from movies to improve our accents?
Oh, absolutely. I'd pause the movie, try to say the line exactly like the actor, and then replay it to compare. It's a fantastic way to fine-tune your pronunciation. And listeners, don't worry if it's not perfect at first. Babies don't worry about being perfect. They just keep practicing until they get it right.
That's so true. And here's a tip. Try shadowing. That means repeating words or sentences immediately after you hear them. For example, if you're watching a video and someone says, "How are you today?" Pause and say, "How are you today?" right after them. Do it over and over until it feels natural.
Another thing babies do is make mistakes, a lot of them. But they don't get discouraged. They learn through trial and error. So, for our listeners, if you make a mistake, don't feel embarrassed. Mistakes are a crucial part of learning.
That's such an important reminder, Jack. Mistakes mean you're trying, and trying means you're improving. Now, let's move on to step 3, building vocabulary. Babies start with simple words like mama, dada, or milk. Over time, their vocabulary grows as they interact more with their surroundings.
Yes. And for English learners, start with the basics. Focus on common, everyday words and phrases. You don't need to know every single word in the dictionary to communicate effectively. For example, instead of saying purchase, you can say buy.
Exactly. And here's a fun way to learn vocabulary like a baby. Label your environment. Put sticky notes on objects around your house with their English names. When you see mirror every day, you'll naturally remember it without much effort.
That's a brilliant idea. Also, don't forget to use those new words in sentences. Babies don't just learn words, they put them into context. If you learn the word apple, try saying, "I want an apple," or "The apple is red."
And let's not forget about interaction. Babies learn faster when they interact with others. For English learners, find a language partner, join an English-speaking group, or participate in online forums. The more you use English in real conversations, the more confident you'll become.
Definitely. And it's not just about speaking. Interaction also involves asking and answering questions. Emma, let's give our listeners a quick exercise. I'll ask a question, and they can pause to answer in English. Ready?
Ready, let's do it.
All right, here's the first question. What did you do yesterday?
Great. Now, here's another one. What's your favorite food and why do you like it?
Perfect. These kinds of exercises are simple yet powerful. The more you practice forming sentences, the more natural it will feel.
Absolutely. Now, let's talk about one more secret. Patience. Babies don't learn to talk in a week or even a month. It takes time, but they're consistent. They practice every single day. Jack, how can our listeners stay patient and motivated during their English learning journey?
Great question, Emma. One way is to set small, achievable goals. Instead of saying, "I want to be fluent," say, "I'll learn 5 new words today," or "I'll watch 1 episode of an English show." Celebrate those small wins, they add up.
And remember, progress isn't always linear. Some days you'll feel like you're improving a lot, and other days you might feel stuck. That's normal. The key is to keep going and not give up.
Exactly. Before we wrap up, let's summarize the steps to learning English like a baby. Listen actively. Immerse yourself in English every day. Imitate and repeat. Practice shadowing and mimic native speakers. Build vocabulary. Start with basics and use context to remember words. Interact. Have real conversations and answer questions. Be patient. Trust the process and stay consistent.
That's a fantastic summary, Jack. And to all our listeners, we challenge you to try these steps this week. Start small and let us know how it goes. We'd love to hear your experiences.
Yes, share your progress with us. And if you found this episode helpful, don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a review. Learning English is a journey, and we're here to guide you every step of the way.
Before we officially sign off, let's dive a bit deeper into one final point, Jack. The importance of common answers in English. I think this is one area where learners can really level up their skills without feeling overwhelmed.
Oh, that's a great addition, Emma. Common answers are like shortcuts in communication. If you know the typical responses to everyday questions, you'll feel much more confident in conversations.
Exactly. For example, let's say someone asks you, "How are you?" A common answer could be, "I'm fine. Thank you. And you?" But Jack, let's help our listeners move beyond that and learn a variety of responses.
Sure thing. Instead of always saying, "I'm fine," you can say, "I'm doing great, thanks." "Not bad. How about you?" "I'm a bit tired, but otherwise good."
That's perfect. And if someone asks, "What do you do for fun?" you could reply with, "I love reading books. I enjoy watching movies. I like spending time outdoors."
You see, listeners, having a collection of these ready-to-use answers makes conversations flow more naturally. Here's an idea. Why not create your own list of common questions and answers? Start with questions like, "Where are you from?" "What's your favorite hobby?" "Why are you learning English?"
That's brilliant, Jack. Let's give them a quick challenge right now. Take a moment to think of your own answers to these questions. For example, for "Why are you learning English?" you could say, "I want to travel and communicate with people worldwide. I need it for my job. I love watching movies in English and I want to understand them better."
Did you come up with some answers? If so, great job. Remember, the key is to practice saying them out loud. You want to get comfortable using these phrases so that they roll off your tongue naturally in real conversations.
And Jack, this reminds me of another baby-like strategy. Repetition builds confidence. Babies don't just learn words once, they hear and repeat them thousands of times. Similarly, when you practice these common answers, you're training your brain to respond automatically.
Exactly. Think of it like muscle memory. The more you practice, the faster and easier it becomes. And Emma, there's something else I want to add. Intonation and tone. Babies learn a lot from how things are said, not just what's said.
Oh, that's a fantastic point. For example, if someone asks, "How are you?" and you respond with, "I'm fine," but your tone sounds flat, it might feel awkward. On the other hand, if you say, "I'm fine," with a cheerful tone, it feels friendly and engaging.
Absolutely. So, when you practice these answers, pay attention to your tone. Does it match the emotion you're trying to convey? If you're excited, let your tone reflect that. If you're tired, it's okay to sound a little less energetic.
That's such valuable advice. And Jack, one more thing. Let's encourage our listeners to practice with real people, not just in their heads. Join language exchange apps, talk to friends who speak English, or even practice with a teacher. Real interaction is where the magic happens.
Couldn't agree more, Emma. And for those of you who are shy, start small. Practice your common answers in front of a mirror or record yourself speaking. It might feel weird at first, but trust us, it works.
Yes, it does. And before we officially wrap up, let's leave our listeners with a final exercise. Jack, how about a quick role play?
Great idea. Listeners, imagine I'm a new friend you just met. I'll ask a question, and Emma will show you how to answer. Then it's your turn to practice. Ready?
Ready?
Hi, nice to meet you. What's your name?
Hi, I'm Emma. Nice to meet you too.
Where are you from, Emma?
I'm from London. How about you?
What do you do in your free time?
I love hiking and exploring new places. See how easy that is? Now it's your turn, listeners. Practice answering these questions out loud. And don't worry if it's not perfect. The key is to keep practicing.
That's right. And Emma, I think this is a good place to wrap up. We've covered so much today. Listening, imitating, building vocabulary, interacting, and mastering common answers.
Plus, we shared some practical exercises you can do right now to boost your confidence. Remember, learning English like a baby is all about patience, practice, and having fun.
Exactly. So, listeners, don't forget to share your progress with us. Leave a comment, send us a message, or even record your answers to the questions we practiced today.
And don't forget, we're not just here for one-way learning. We love hearing from you, our amazing listeners. Your feedback, questions, and even your success stories inspire us to create even better episodes.
That's so true, Emma. In fact, why don't we give them a little challenge for the week? Something they can practice and share with us.
Great idea, Jack. Okay, listeners, here's your challenge. Write down 3 common questions in English and your answers to them. Then, practice saying them aloud every day this week. Bonus points if you record yourself and send it to us or share it on social media with the hashtag #EnglishLikeABaby.
I love that. And if you're feeling adventurous, try using your answers in a real conversation. It could be with a friend, a language partner, or even a stranger. Remember, mistakes are part of the learning process.
Absolutely. Speaking of mistakes, Jack, let's remind them. Babies make tons of mistakes when they're learning to talk, but they don't give up. They just keep going. And eventually, they get it.
Exactly. So, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Every time you try, you're getting closer to fluency.
And here's one more tip. Celebrate your progress. If you successfully answer a question without hesitation, give yourself a little pat on the back. Small wins add up to big success.
That's such good advice, Emma. And on that positive note, let's talk about what's coming up in our next episode.
Oh yes, next time we'll be diving into the power of listening, how to train your ears for better English. It's going to be packed with tips on active listening, understanding accents, and improving comprehension.
I can't wait for that one. Listening is such an underrated skill, but it's the foundation of communication.
Totally agree. So, listeners, make sure you tune in for that. And as always, feel free to send us your questions or topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes.
You're part of this journey with us, and we're here to help you every step of the way.
All right, friends, that's all for today's episode. We hope you found this discussion helpful and inspiring.
Remember, learning English like a baby isn't about being perfect. It's about listening, practicing, and having fun.
If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and share it with your friends. And check out our latest videos for more tips and practice exercises.
Thanks for joining us, and we can't wait to hear about your progress. See you next time.
Bye for now.